Good afternoon all together. This is Michael. We are talking about the what's new in release 1911 today. And as always, if you don't want your name, your face, your voice, or whatever being visible to others, please disconnect now, since this meeting will now be recorded. So, folks, most likely I'm going to give you an hour back at least, because there is not that much in 1911 which is worth having a closer look to from a consulting perspective. I'm not saying that there is no proper feature set added, but I'm saying that there is not that much we really have to discuss from a consulting perspective. So let's see, as always, lines are open all the time. Unmute yourself, jump in and ask questions whenever you feel like. And at the end, we most probably will have plenty of time for an intense Q&A if there is anything still open. So let's see. 1911, fresh from the press. I was talking to PM an hour ago, and they said most likely Monday, latest Tuesday next week, we're going to have it on Marketplace for on-prem. Cloud upgrades will start soon. So preview instances are live for all the customers already now, at least for the multi-tenant ones. I don't know yet whether a single tenant is covered or not, but multi-tenant should be there. Demo preview is there. So whenever you feel like, you can have a look. So what's new? My desktop sharing is paused. Now it's not anymore. Now you see the first page, hopefully. You do?
Yes.
Yes, that's good.
Yes.
So, smells like Fiori Spirit. Oh, there was the funny guy creating the titles again. However, not that much to say, except the fact that for basically every designable output, we have the new Quartz design, which is a dark blue grayish, quite good looking one. Very consistent. Story ends. Just select it from the resources templates from now on. Now this is the new design based on Fiori 3. So nothing to show, nothing to talk. That's an important portion for us. Automatic launch for Desktop Assistant is again possible. For all of you using it already, you may have realized, if you were using the old approach for auto starting, where JNLP, respectively SENL files, the physical files, were able to trigger auto start behavior. You may have realized that 2 releases ago, out of a sudden, that was not possible anymore. That was the result of an actual bug fix. There was a security issue, pretended to be a security issue. The SENL and the JNLP files both contain session IDs, and this session ID or manager was designed in a way that if the session ID handed over by the trigger file was already dead, it instantiated a new session based upon the user credentials. And that was fixed, which led to the fact that it was not possible anymore, which prevented us from actually auto-starting Desktop Assistant in a cloud scenario, which was a nightmare. Yeah, because that's the expected behavior for a performance support system, just to be there and not to being launched somehow actively or manually. No, just to be mandatorily active. So good news is it's now working again. You may just use the SENL file coming from the installation just as is. And then single sign-on will be triggered in the background, user will be authenticated, and whatever session ID you may have in, it will simply be ignored and a new session will be instantiated. So this works fine again. Putting it into the auto start sequence of the single user will seamlessly start the Desktop Assistant with the boot up of the machine. So everything back in place. That's worth mentioning because that's quite an important one. If you have customers who are running DA since longer. Yes, Dirk.
Couple of questions on that.
Yeah.
So users still need to manually have the launcher installed before they can do this? Okay. And what was the other question? Oh yeah, you still basically just have to add this into the startup folder, or have a batch.
That's what I'm usually suggesting. Yeah, to consider the SENL file as a 1K software package, which is distributed by the regular software distribution system of the customer. Yeah, and just having that SENL physically, because it's tiny, it's just 1K, published to the AutoStart folder of the single user profile via MSI.
Yep.
That's the easiest way, because that's technology that any customer, independent from size and professionality level, will have in place. Yeah, so that I don't know any even small size companies anymore that do that somehow still manually or in another way. SSCM is everywhere, so that's the easiest.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah. What another best practice here would be having a local storage for if you have multiple files. Like having one storage of n starter files, if you have target group specific requirements, for instance, or subsidiary specific or whatever, but still only want to maintain one package, usually going that way to pack all of the starter files into one file, hide it somewhere on the C drive, and then have packages per target group that only use INKs, so shortcut files, to the respective one of the single user. So using that, you may even be able to use the AutoStart sequence in a target group specific manner. Good. Anything else regarding this? Yes, no, maybe? No. All right, let's go ahead. Next one, performance support. As you see with the race car. A lot of Web Assistant stuff. I have Web Assistant test system live in the background, so whenever you feel like having a look, we can do so. But most of it is more or less self-explaining. So button added to the hotspot form. So assign hotspot is not a separate function anymore in the context menu per tile. It is now a button within. Ease of use, usability is faster, obviously. Guided tours provide highlight frames, which they didn't do so far. This is more or less coming from the try to make desktop assistant and web assistant more equal. So like the highlighting and the focusing on the certain object by frames was a feature that was in desktop assistant since ever, which is now available in web assistant in the same manner. Nothing to show, it's just another property of the corresponding object. This is an important one again from our perspective, strategy-wise. For all of you having implemented Web Assistant already in a customer environment where enable now libraries had a certain value and are in use, people complained usually about Learning Center, because Learning Center is nice looking, tiles, but structure-wise, there is room for improvement, because that long flat list with each and everything is basically something that I personally don't like that much from a usability perspective. I mean, 200, 300 is probably still manageable, but that's not reality. We would have far more, and then having a flat list with an ultimate number of tiles is simply not usable. However, there is the new parameter Learning Center URL, and that can be replaced with library deep link, any start node, any filter, any whatever you want, and then Learning Center will launch a URL instead of the Learning Center. While recommended content dialog, meaning the context sensitive result list within a context, will stay untouched. So there will be no query sent against the library from my perspective, unfortunately, but maybe that will be something that will change as well soon. But for now, that's the feature. We got the library back in play and we are all happy, at least Dirk is, because he's applauding, which is good. I have the same feeling. I applauded as well. All right, so this gives us more freedom, especially in running projects where we are alive since ages and where the library is the content the delivery mechanism in place, and people just don't want anything else than that. Hey, we are back in the game. Okay, That's good. So far, so good. Important UI element recognition for the current patches of SAP GUI for HTML, WebDyn Pro, and there is a certain enhancement in success factors. I tried this morning to find a test system to prove it and show it. Unfortunately, the one that solution management used for their sessions, I don't know if you participated those sessions as well. They had one. This was gone. No, so it was somehow switched off to this morning. However, I couldn't make it. I will try to have one in place for our next official Friday session, where we discuss core topic, and then I will bring the UI recognition for non-UI 5 back on the plate. And for now, you know it works, and it works like a charm. Yeah, I haven't expected that quality. It's really good. It's real time is as fast as everything in UI 5, so we don't have that much of a trouble anymore in hybrid scenarios where launchpads are consolidating technologies from older days together with state-of-the-art UI 5. Really important to know, yes, it works. There are still restrictions. Please do yourself the favor before promising too much and implementing that just based on a workshop. Give it a try. But basically, everything is working fine. Read the documentation around that before jumping into the next project, please. Media object support for learning app. As simple as that. We have, where's my producer gone? We have the context recording button in media objects. Not in my case, for what reason ever, but usually it should be there. So I don't know. I've seen it already. Maybe that's a bug within the new feature. However, media object support is given, so you can record learning app contexts for basically any media object from now on. A minor one, I don't know where this change request came from actually, but okay, there was a title bar showing the title of the guided tour persistently within the step bubbles. There's now an additional parameter where we are able to switch it off. Oops. And I forgot to turn off my Skype. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, not much more to say about this. I mean, this is all just authoring stuff that you can check on your own. There is no risk or something. All right, that's the next big one. That's the big one we really have to talk about. SAML authentication for Azure, Cloud, and Okta is now finally working without IAS. Nevertheless, most likely we're gonna keep the best practice untouched and recommend usage of IAS, but in any case, now it works because now authentication in iframe is not necessarily the only way. There is the parameter new window SAML. If that is set to true, the authentication will not be covered in an iframe anymore. It's a new browser instance that handles the SAML request, and with that, both Azure and Okta have no issues anymore. So basically, that is the missing link to be able to really state, yes, we are able to provide proper and transparent SAML authentication, which each and every commercial foundation service on the planet. That was really the only missing link, at least the only missing feature that I was aware of. If you know any other, please let me know. But basically, that thing is now off the table. I will rework our authentication overview slides somewhere next week and upload them to our consulting share. They are outdated now, yeah, because they, at least in parts, tell a different story. So there is an update required for 1911, at least for the authentication deck. That's quite a good one, very handy. There's a new shortcut in Web Assistant, Control U. Let me show you that one. Customer projects, going out of edit mode and going to edit. Now we see a lot, right? And Control U drills down the whole thing to all unassigned tiles. At least it should. Most likely it only does when we are in edit mode, which makes sense. Yes. Yeah, you see none left, meaning there are no tiles which are not anyhow connected to a target object. So it's just a filtering functionality. As you know, keyboard shortcuts, there we go. This is the new one. Control U, filter unassigned tiles. No? So you can just drill down that list if it becomes quite complex. This is why I've chosen this one, because there's a lot in, because this is a very dynamic form where sometimes things are assigned and sometimes things are not. So if you run this from top to bottom, you see it's a lot of stuff in there. And if you want to find the one unassigned one, this was challenging, and now it's just the press of a button. So Web Assistant, we are done with Web Assistant already. So that's my favorite. Remove synchronized object locally. Yeah? So, I mean, we were discussing overheads and synchronization. In basically all of our session, we know that the best practice approach to give the single author a single space to live in, like the authoring group where people are working in, where things are referenced in or taken out again, is the best practice. But as you know, some customers don't follow this advice. However, this is a workaround, or this is an option to speed up the synchronization performance in general and to just get rid of physical local overhead by removing single subtrees from the tree only locally without affecting the target infrastructure. Very, very handy and rather important. Waited for this for a very long time. Using is as easy as it could be. Remove locally, what does that mean? Yes, remove it locally means that a certain subtree in a synchronized tree is just indicated as a placeholder group with a new additional icon on top of it. As you see, just a blue cloud. And that means there would be more actually, but not yet because you removed it. And if you want it back, you just go load from server. But any sync will pass this subtree by and will not go further. Yeah, so this really is a performance enhancer for producer authors. This should be proactively communicated because that changes a lot in the daily life of an author, I would say. If you experience anything in here that was somehow uncovered, please let us know. This is the first version of it. And as you know, sometimes things can be improved after being implemented. So let's get our stuff back. Then we are back, and now the sync would just go through the complete thing again. Yeah, so this is quite a beauty, I believe, especially for projects where the consulting impact is low, like crisp, short projects where we have not that much of possibilities to create beautiful information architectures and structures. So this is rather hands-on, but works like a charm. Back to the deck. So this is an important one, I would say. So we have a new status within the tree. Next one, the automated publishing as well, is a milestone feature from my perspective because it's the starting point to be able to utilize workflows rather as an automation than just as an information object. Automated publishing, well hidden. Yeah, so this is why I'm going to show you where you find it. In Manager, let's open workflows in Manager and pick any. So it's just random now. I don't know who actually created that one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit a transition, and yes, there we are. This is the magic switch. Trigger published state. So you can create a workflow that at a certain transition publishes the objects automatically. Yeah? So we don't have a discontinuity between workflow transition and the effective action of publishing an object. Now the workflow transition as such publishes the object. The logical question that I was asking is there a trigger unpublish as well? Unfortunately not. Yeah, there's always room for improvement. So no, there is only publish now. So logical question will be when will unpublish come? Okay, we're going to discuss. However, this is already quite a beauty, because then I say, okay, first quality assurance step, so second pair of eyes, third pair of eyes goes through, and as soon as the second quality assurance layer is passed, in any case, automatically the object will be part of desktop or web assistant or a library. Yeah, so nothing to do anymore additionally to being responsible or being permitted to execute the corresponding transition. So gives a lot of possibilities in the workflow segment in comparison with before. Any questions here?
Yeah, I've got a couple on this. This was actually one of my customer improvement requests, or half of it actually. The other half was I wanted it so that you could basically approve something for publishing, but it would not be published until a certain milestone was hit. So you could basically group together a bunch of stuff, but maybe that will be the next part of this. But the question I had was, does the person who triggers that transition into the status that's going to publish it, do they need to have publishing authorization?
Yes.
Yes, they do. So, yes. Okay. So if I set it up so that as soon as I had my final content owner approval via the workflow, that content approver would need publishing authorization.
Absolutely. You need publishing permission from a permission perspective, and this is still something which we cannot restrict yet, to say, but only inside your workflow. Yeah. So to really restrict that, we would have to be a bit creative around the general workflow concept or the tree concept as such. At that point, just an outlook. Yeah. So I will not promise anything about when it will come, even not or if it will come at all, but from a concept perspective, this is what will happen. We will be able, sooner or later, be able to restrict the scope within the tree of the single user based on the user object. That's the plan. And then it's a story again. Yeah, because then you might say, okay, Mr. Miller is author for end-to-end process hire to retire. So his world starts with the hire to retire node. And within that, having publishing permission is fine. Yeah, because that's his or her content. So there's nothing to discuss, because that's ownership, and then you can restrict the rest. So what was always asked for was permissions within the tree, which from a data perspective or a data model perspective is hard to handle. But what we're gonna have sooner or later is simply the fact that we can reduce the scope. Yeah, and I believe then we got the beauty. Yeah? Then we got everything we need, including your scenario.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, that one's been asked for, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Another question here, Mike, on this one.
Yes.
Are the workflow, is creating, modifying, deleting workflows still restricted to administrators?
Yes.
Okay.
Restricted to all personnel having that one tick mark in the permission set. And so if you talk about the standard roles or the standard permission sets, yeah, that's administrators only. No, but besides that, whatever you defined. But it's still based on the permissions, yeah.
Sure, thank you.
All righty, so that was the one slide. Browser, a lot of text. What you can do now is create recording templates that define the browser content area as a default. That's the whole story. So within the recording settings, you will find from now on a third option that gives you the option to predefine browser content area as the size. So you consequently can skip the browser header and the footer from recording if you consequently use this template, but that's all of it. That's the story. Same here. What you see is what you get for quizzes. Yes, it's possible now. You can try on your own. Producer, create a quiz, and then what was completely white eagle on white ground before is now the quiz, and you can edit your question, text, etc. in Wysiwyg mode, just as you do for the other contents. This is a beauty again. Optimized master tag management. This is what I have to show you. Waited for a long time. So we got now a new functionality here called manage content categories and manage master tags. So both for categories and for master tags, we now finally have a proper user interface. We can list them. We have the references in there. So if you have somehow dead zombies of tags lingering around in your work area, it's hard to find. Anybody who ever had to clean this up knows. That was always easier on the file system with the proper find and replace tool. But now we have a proper UI for it. It's lightning fast, so you can add master categories here. If an object is already set with this category, let's just do it. No, where is my object? Don't want this to be read only. This is the one I want. Check, check. And then set the category, the tag. Where is my text? There is my tags. There I set my tag. Going back to the manage tags, we have one reference here. So you see the utilization of it, at least numbered. You might replace one with the other. Change to master is dedicated to convert an author tag into a master tag and make it available for everybody. You also remove them, including all utilizations within all instances they refer to. So this is a weapon now in comparison with before. So this is really, really a big step. I like a lot. And it's referencing through, so it's analyzable just as all other assets. Really good one. This one, and it was not mentioned in the deck, but content categories just work in the same way. You have the references, you have the same functionality, so even for categories, it's the same approach and the same interface. This UI portion actually came from the new reference window that you probably never even touched. The new reference dialog has the same quality. Yeah, jumping around between the different references, seeing everything, having a dynamic ultra-fast search in here. So this is the UI portion where all this came from originally, and this is the next step, tags and categories for that purpose. Fingers crossed that this will be something which is in the same way or similarly be possible for custom properties soon as well. So master tags, direct links to learning modes and steps. I will not show you that, you will realize on your own. If you link to something from somewhere, the link dialog now goes one level deeper as it went before. So you don't stop on project level, you can now select a certain step of a project when linking to it, or a certain slide within a book when linking to it. So very, very handy one. Yeah, but that's self-explaining. You just can expand the tree one further level downwards as it was possible before. So highlights in step preview. So highlights are now somehow previewed. I actually didn't get that one. It's a re-recording feature, and I did not try. Yeah, sorry for that, but yeah, it's obvious. No? So now the highlights of the original recording are displayed in the target application when re-recording directly. Obviously, again, I haven't tried, but if it's there, it works. And deletion of unused objects, another beauty, fast cleanup. Yeah, one of our biggest things. Hey, we have that ultimate long list of unreferenced entities, what to do with it, and that's the easy cleanup. Yeah? Dump everything which has no further references, and do not touch anything that has a reference, meaning a certain use within. Both referrers and tree references are taken into consideration. So anything which is linked to and anything which has another reference within the tree and lives in the unsorted subtree will stay untouched, because there might be usages and it might probably not wise to just delete it, but anything else can be deleted in one run. Good one, delete unused objects in producer. Export functions for extended web assistant content. This is explainable or needs explanation maybe. On a certain node, there is not only export anymore, but also export customized objects. What does that mean? That means in an extended work area scenario, you can export a filtered subset of all objects that have been fetched and modified. And this will not take the content that is inherited from its base work area into consideration. Quite handy to use to transport things from work area A to work area B. Yeah, as you know, there's always a one-to-one relation. If we are in a 3-tier system environment where we have help content maybe created on development system and then have to migrate this even has to do something with work areas. And that feature is the filter of, hey, everything I touched needs to be transported, everything I didn't should stay untouched. So if you wonder what this is for, that's the reason. And it only actually is available and it only makes sense in a connected work area, in an extended work area of a connection or of a standalone work area, even in a scenario where no SAP content is playing a role. That might be quite a handy one, just for delta views on what you changed in comparison with what was hosted on the underlying base work area in general. Good, then we got application recognition improvements, especially for MS Office 365 Online. There were issues in cross-application recognition. Expectation was if recorded in thin client of Excel, context should hit in fat client as well, and vice versa. I believe this was now totally fixed. I'm not 100% sure. So one promising that should read the PAM before, but I tried one scenario and it worked fine. Yeah, no guarantees. That was my finding. And on Concur, it now works smoothly. Yeah, so they really invented some IDs for us. So good recognition improvements here. And Office, the scope was on online client versus fat client. Guys, that already was it. Christmas release. Any questions?
Nice improvements.
Nice, huh?
Especially that sync. That sync is very
yeah, take out of sync. That is solving
and
a lot of pain.
Yeah, and I really like the pointing the Learning app to a separate library, because I've had 3 customers this year that said, you know, we hate Learning app. We don't want to show all this generic stuff that lead users astray. We want to just show our custom stuff. That is dynamite. Yeah,
same. I think this will be a starting point, because then you have to discuss, hey, and what's with target group specific libraries? So it's one now, probably the requirement is different. So right now, after we bring library back into play in a pure web assistant scenario, you really have to consider the intense usage of filters to get everything sorted and being as precise as possible.
Yep.
Any further questions? Oh, wow, we were fast today.
I have a quick question about the recognition. You mentioned, and I've had customers that keep deploying non-Fiori stuff out of the Fiori Launchpad. And until now-ish or recently, you didn't have Web Assistant, and now it smells like you do. You know, say a NetWeaver app that's launched out of Fiori, it will work.
Not in any latest core update is required, but In that case, if a WebDyn Pro ABAP or an SAP GUI for HTML application is embedded into a Launchpad, the object recognition quality within that Launchpad is as good as it would be for any UI5 component. Yes. So
awesome.
you can tackle any button and any field within a WebDyn Pro or a SAP GUI for HTML transaction straight from Web Assistant.
That is cool. That'll make at least customers happy.
Yeah, that's one less or one less handover situation where we have to discuss desktop assistant, web assistant handover forth and back. So now I would say, okay, besides things like custom intranet and other legacy stuff. So if you are in a native SAP environment, portal-wise, and everything in the browser is SAP, we are done with Web Assistant only. And then it's consistent again, saying browser, Web Assistant is in, and if browser disappears, Desktop Assistant comes back alive. Yeah, this is consistent now.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a kind of a separate question. It's not necessarily 1911. Over the past probably month, we've been getting more and more errors when you're trying to download content or sync with the manager or something like that. And it doesn't seem to be any specific cloud. It just in general, when we're syncing to the cloud or when we're trying to download a new work area or something like that, we get massive errors, and sometimes it takes 5 or 6 tries to get things synced up, even on a effectively empty work area. Are you seeing anything like that on your side?
No, really not. But I heard a lot of complaints in the US.
Yeah.
So basically there, did you open tickets for all of them?
No, we haven't yet. It's one of those that, you know, sooner or later it'll work. So, you know, if we don't have time to open a ticket, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you should do. Yeah, because this is then probably something which is infrastructure related.
Yeah, that's
and that the Chandler data center or whatever has an issue with prioritization or with the outbound ports. I don't know. Yeah, but this is something where as soon as infrastructure is involved, or when it has that taste of infrastructure being involved, there is no way without a ticket. Yeah,
okay.
And the more tickets, the better, because this increases pressure towards DevOps and operations. Yeah, because this is not even our backend team. So not Thomas and friends in Berlin.
Sure.
This is a completely different team. So and there we just need to have something which is provable, saying, hey, this is the issues. So please, if this is massive, this should not be open tickets.
All right, we'll start watching that more then. Yeah, and I know I'm working out of at least 3 different data centers, and they seem to be all pretty much the same. You know, every now and then they just say, no, forget you, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything else? If not, I even give you more than an hour back.
Yep, all good here. Appreciate the info.
All right.
Yeah. Come on, Mike.
Then I wish you a brilliant weekend. And if we don't get in touch again before Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Talk to you soon, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Sam.